All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Camp Content. In this episode, we are joined by Steve Smith. He is the Chief Revenue Officer at Live Oak Fiber, who brings over 2 decades of experience in telecom sales leadership. His professional journey has spanned several significant roles across sales, marketing, sales operations, product development, and corporate development at notable companies including Ritter Communications, Swift Reach, General Telecom, Apex, and Quest. Steve has made notable contributions in the telecom industry, including the development launch of a major FTTX project and the founding of RazorNet, a network consortium aimed at enhancing middle-mile fiber network connectivity. Alongside Jody Kraft, he co-founded Ruland Technology Advisors, supporting FTTX service provider leaders in their strategic endeavors. Steve is now with Live Oak Fiber, and so we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about marketing, revenue, and all of that good stuff on today's episode. So thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Molly. It's exciting to be here.
Yeah,
excited
man,
to talk about marketing and content and getting customers. It's fun.
I mean, it's the question on everybody's mind. You know, it's a different market than it was last year and the year before, right? Business has changed. The way people spend money has changed.
Yep.
The whole world has changed, quite frankly, right? So we're changing with it. So can you give me a little background on Live Oak Fiber, like a company snapshot, like where are you guys located, how many employees?
Sure, absolutely. So Live Oak Fiber was formed. Jody and I formed a consulting company called Ruland Technology Advisors back in 2015. And we felt like the reason we did that, Jody and I had come from large operators, and that's why we felt like there was a need in the marketplace for some of these rural providers that were, that needed extra muscle to make products, to develop networks, to figure out how to plan or expand their network, where to make investments. And so that was our business. We worked with providers that had 15 people in rural Kentucky or Arkansas or Tennessee, all the way up to, we did a lot of work with Sprint and the T-Mobile merger. We worked with the Sprint global wireline business. So that was our business for 7 years. And through that, we also did work with private equity. There's a lot of investment in this space, I think definitely over the last 10 years, but especially the last 5. Where companies it's referred to as digital infrastructure, because that's actually what it is. And we worked with a company called Infrared Capital Partners, and they were looking to invest in the United States and find a way to build broadband. So we built a business plan for private equity. Jody and I were not shopping a business plan. They were a client, and they said, "Hey, we want to do this. Could you guys put a plan together?" And so we did. And in July of 22, we founded Live Oak Fiber. There was 4 of us at the time, and we started from scratch. So we just had we had a PowerPoint and Excel, as I like to say, and we went from there. Inside of 6 months, though, we had built network in Florida. And we'd also built some in Georgia, but before December, within 6 months, we'd hired about 30 or 40 people, and we had connected customers and had them up and running. Live Oak Fiber today operates in 2 areas of the country. We operate on the coastal southern coast of Georgia, and that is Glenn County, Camden County. That's Brunswick, Georgia, St. Simons Island. Camden County is where the U.S. submarine base is for the Atlantic Fleet. We also do some work. We have connected customers on the eastern side of Savannah on the Barrier Islands there. And then in Florida, we're dead in the middle of the panhandle there. We're just west of Pensacola in an area called Okaloosa County, or the Emerald Coast is what they call it because of the watercolor. So those that are listening might be familiar with Fort Walton Beach, or they might be familiar with Destin. So we're building everything along that coast and up to the interstate I-10. So from Navarre, Fort Walton Beach down to Panama City Beach, and that's where we are today. So today we're just over 2 years old. We have about 125 employees. We built thousands of miles of fiber. We have over 10,000 customers, and we're excited. We're off and running, as they say.
As you should be. I mean, that's an impressive 2-year sprint for sure. You got to love a business that starts based off of the demand, right? It's always
Yeah.
good when someone comes to you and says, "Hey, we got money for this thing. We need you to build it." But you've
Go
clearly
find some
taken it.
places to do it, right? And we've done it in places. I think the thing about broadband that people don't realize is that it really it transcends demographics. The demand is there, whether they're a lower income or a higher income. That's the need, and that's what the pandemic has 100% taught us. That connectivity, is everything. And maybe you're a lower income family. We built fiber in some of maybe the poorest counties in the United States, and we had take rates that we have today because people need it. Maybe they don't go on a vacation. Maybe they turn on streaming services for the summer. Maybe they turn on gaming services. Just depends. But yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So you primarily selling to consumers, or are you also selling to other businesses?
We sell to every location along the network. So it's primarily homes and businesses, but we also sell to larger businesses. You might call it enterprise, hospital systems, school systems, municipalities. We also do work with larger carriers. There's large companies in the United States that have national accounts, and those national accounts have locations in our areas. We sell to them as well.
That's amazing. Especially school systems, I would imagine with the pandemic, that was the first thing I thought of, is the school systems really struggled with the lack of connectivity. So I'm sure they were happy to have you there. It's a pretty competitive industry. So how are you guys staying on top of things? How are you separating yourself from the pack? And, a lot of people don't really like their telecom provider, AKA Comcast, right, for good reasons, because they're horrible. I said that, you didn't. So how are you guys staying ahead of that curve and staying on top of that market?
Well, I think that is one thing that makes us different. We all know how consumers have been treated in this space, and myself included. We've all purchased services from these folks, but there's also other companies, think about like an Amazon and how Amazon makes a buying experience for a consumer. Telecom companies were not there yet, but Jody and I wanted to basically start a company that highlighted the true value of connectivity and made the experience the way we would want to buy other things. Meaning, like when you go in a store and there's a price tag, that's what the price is. You don't get to the checkout counter and they start, there's taxes, but you don't get to the checkout counter and there's a lot of extra fees on there that you don't know what it is, right? And it's turned consumers into people that have to wrangle their providers around every 2 years to get in and out of contracts. There's whole websites dedicated to how do you, negotiate with your cable provider. That's crazy. That's not how people like to buy things or experience things. And so we started, that's one of the things we do. For instance, we do not outsource our technicians. We employ full-time technicians, and we have a white glove service. Our technicians are our employees. These are long-term career jobs that they get that they haven't had in some of these regions, and we train them, and they get to a customer's house and they don't leave until everything's working. And but they're not outsourced from another city or that are just there to try to knock out a job. That is the experience, and that's what Jody and I at the core wanted to do.
That's amazing. I really appreciate that. I think it's really important to pay people a living wage and give people job security. And I can tell that that's important to you as well. And I definitely respect that. I think that it might be more expensive on your line item and all that. And it might be hard to justify with investors. But at the end of the day, we all want to be valued for the money we're spending and for being a customer. And we want to be treated a certain way. And I think a lot of the problems we're seeing in society is because people are angry that they're doing what they're supposed to do and they don't get what they were told they were going to get, right? So I think one company at a time delivering what you've promised, really does make a difference. I mean, it's such a simple, basic thing, but this is where we are.
I know it's a simple thing, and people say, "Oh, everybody wants to do that," and they do. I think every company wants to differentiate themselves in that kind of service aspect, but we absolutely do, and we're absolutely intentional about trying to make that happen. We have, inside of 2 years, we've been certified as a great place to work, nice. which is a thing. And we also were selected last year. We were selected this year as well. They haven't given us the rankings because we moved up. We have more employees, but we were one of the, the Fortune, best small businesses to work within the first year. And amazing. if you build that culture, that is reflected in our customer experiences with our folks. Like our technicians, everybody that works with customers, they like coming to work. They like making customers happy. They're invested in our why statement, which is, we're there to improve the quality of life of these communities through technology, and our technology is broadband. So if they're bought in on that, I mean, we have really great committed people, and that part, that's one of the differentiators for us. And
yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. If you like the people you're giving money to, you're going to keep giving them money. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? And sometimes a small little gesture can really go a long way. It really is the little things at this point. Can you give me an example of like a successful program you have run to expand your reach, and what kind of marketing are you doing? Content marketing? Are you doing paid ads? What are you doing to get in front of people?
Everything, Molly. So no, we do everything. No, we do. We have a very digital forward plan, but we also do a lot of out of home and like some of the traditional items. It really comes down to understanding the customers. We create buyer personas for every area that we're in. So different, depending on where you live, we have different messaging, and we reach you a different way. Some people like to read the newspaper. Some people, especially in some of these communities, they love talk radio, especially when it's about sports, local sports. That's a thing. But then you have people that have, for instance, maybe outside of Savannah or, some of the areas over in Florida where they want to work from home, and they have a different, they're getting a different message. So yeah, digital advertising, and it's all about A/B testing. It's all about, evaluating and measuring, and trying to track all that. But I view it as an orchestra. So each of these different components, marketing is an instrument in the orchestra, and it's how you kind of conduct it and make sure that, that the drum section doesn't get too loud. We do direct mail. Direct mail works if it's done correctly, and it could be definitely a different way. Digital ads work. We did produce some television quality commercials last year that were very successful. Our competitors blocked us from being able to run those on linear TV. So when you're watching cable TV, that's called linear television. They won't allow us to run ads there. That's fine. So we run it on connected channels. So we'll run it on, YouTube. We'll run it on Discord, and Netflix did some changes with how they offer their service packages. There's paid ad versions of Netflix now. After they cleaned up all the passwords, we're on Netflix. We're on platforms that didn't exist a few years ago. Nextdoor is a great one. So we're on as many platforms as we can do to reach them, and we're not really concerned about linear TV, but just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, any way we can reach customers. Live events work really well if done correctly. And if it's marketing, it's in the orchestra. Now, we may not have as many of that as we do, another piece, but yeah, we're always iterating on that. And that's what, that's what's made us successful, I think. We haven't found the magic bullet. It always changes.
Well, I think that's exactly it. I love that you're still doing direct mail. I interviewed a guy named Chris from the Modern Postcard. They've been doing direct mail for 40 years. I'll make that introduction. And I was fascinated. I was like, people are still doing direct mail. Like, who knew? And it does work. It's targeted, and you can retarget people that were on your website. But I think the biggest message here is like you've grown quite a bit in 2 years. You've reached a lot of people. And it sounds like you're doing everything. You've got all those wheels turning. And I think that's probably a lot of work, but it's probably really smart, because instead of going for the new fancy newfangled thing, it's like, well, keep doing the tried and true things. Just make sure you're diversifying your efforts. It kind of sounds like to me.
That's right. And I'm using the music analogy a lot, I guess, this morning. And, if you've ever had kids in band, you go to that first junior high band concert and you just grit your teeth, and it's like, oh, got to get through this. Some kids pounding away on the cymbals in the back, and some kids blowing his heart out on the tenor sax, and but as those instruments develop and those people learn to play with each other, as you get to high school, you get to that high school band, that symphonic band, and even like the jazz band, those kids start to take cues from each other. They like, oh, I know when we're going to start. I know when that riff's going to kick in. And it's the same. It's the exact same with marketing. It's making sure that everything is sequenced and highly orchestrated. And that's, on the back end, that's what people probably don't see is maybe it looks simple on the front, but in order for all those instruments to play well together, you have to constantly make sure, are they on the same sheet and get these different things to take cues from each other. People can get a direct mail piece and they can respond to that on, maybe a cold call from a sales team. Oh, I saw your direct mail. Oh, great. What'd you like about it? Like you can have those kind of handoff, so to speak. So yeah, that's the key thing. I would not say we are a jazz band yet. We're not quite there. But yeah, we definitely, that's where we want to get to. I was in New York last week and Jody and I went to see a band at Birdland, and the guy that was supposed to play, he didn't make it. So they had the house band fill in and they were called the Yardbirds. They did not have a conductor. So they had it was like 11-piece band. The guy at the front would go 1, 2, 3, 4 and kick it off. And I was like, that's how you want to get to in marketing, where you don't necessarily, everyone knows where the cues are. They know when to start, and then they just go full force. And that's where, in music, and I think in marketing, that tentative part where you're like, I don't know if I really want to do this. No, once you get the cues right, you got to really lean into it and be confident doing that. Yeah.
Well, that makes me think a lot about like vendor relationships, because not everybody has in-house people. And I've seen it a lot over the last couple of years where I'm working with a client and they're working with a different vendor for this service and a different vendor for this service. And it's almost like a built-in competition. It's like each vendor is trying to like roll the other one under the bus. It's way too much like, we can't do that. We need another invoice, or that's not my job going around. And I'm always kind of bewildered by how like unwilling it's like you land the big contract and then you stop working. And like, in order to get that symphony, and then every once in a while I get paired with vendors where like we're all on the same team, we're connected on LinkedIn, we're
the music,
helping each other out, and
right.
It's magic. And then other times you're like, Jesus Christ, whose team are you on here? Do you want your client to win or not? Like, I don't do your job, dude. I'm not coming for it. Can we want the client to win together?
That's right. You're using terms. I'm assuming you've been a consultant before, and that's the thing as a consultant. And you're only as good as the value that you bring that day. You're not. You don't need to bring any drama. You're there. You've got one sole purpose, and that's to make your client successful. If that means you got to play well with somebody else, you've got to play well with them, and that's harmony, right? And if there's vendors that you can harmonize, then they don't fit. But that's with any like professional organization,
Right.
And I don't really love the Patriots, but I do think Bill Belichick had a system that he could take anybody from any team and drop them in, and they would be rock stars because he had a system. You got to play in our system. And I think if companies do that, look, you can take feedback from different people. That's what I like about working with the different agencies is we work with agencies that aren't specific to telecom. So you might have someone that's working with software. You might have someone that's working with the consumer. And that's good to get that breadth and depth because they're going to say, hey, Steve, have you thought about this? Like you could get a better e-commerce vision from someone that's not doing telecom. Maybe someone's like helping someone stand up a website where they're ordering things. So yeah, you got to be able to take the feedback, but they got to play on the same team. They can't be clubbing each other with the instruments and stuff for trying to, they just don't last long. And it's amazing to me. I agree with you. I think some people let them stick around too long, and that just doesn't work. I don't get
way
that.
too long with real high price tags too. I'm like, how much are you paying them a month?
Right.
I'll give you 3 more people. Like, let's go. Come on, man. I'll replace all of them.
Run the meter. I'm like, look, now I got 4 people hitting each other instead of 1. So no thanks. Yeah.
Sometimes I just do the work just to prove a point, but that's the Irish in me. I'm like, I know they said they couldn't do it, but I just did it in 20 minutes and I'm not charging you for it. Because I just
like Molly. Absolutely. Yes. The Irish. Absolutely.
It's a principle over circumstance. I get very protective of my clients when I know they're getting ripped off. I can't help it, right? But anyway, enough about that. So let's go into our lightning round portion of the podcast. What is one technology trend you think will revolutionize the broadband industry in the next 5 years?
I think that phone numbers will go away.
Oh, What do you think will replace them?
I think it'll just be contacts. It's already started. You probably don't know the phone numbers of everybody in your phone, but you just see their name. So
Right.
you're gonna be dialing. You're gonna be connecting with an icon. It's a person, and you're gonna connect with them. I think on email or chat or whatever, But the
Right.
phone number, we all have parents. Like my mom still has the same phone number that she's had for, I don't know, 40 years.
Right.
But so maybe my mom's not the test case for this, but I think if you look in your phone, it's icons and, names, and you're just going to connect to people. And maybe you're like going to be connecting to them and you're going to be chatting with them, or maybe you're going to talk live. I don't know. But I think that the phone number thing goes away.
I love
Soon.
Yeah, I always joke that if I get arrested and I get one phone call, my best friend from high school's mom is not going to be happy about that phone call because it's the only number I remember.
It's the only number you remember, right?
Like,
my best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a friend here in Denver, and he knows my mom's phone number, and then that's about it.
That's about it, exactly. And I'm pretty sure they still live there and still have that number, so it's a good one to remember.
Does, absolutely. And I remember and I had to use his dad's number one time, so I'm very familiar with the number.
Yeah, exactly. That's too funny. Yeah. Okay, can you name a book or a resource that has profoundly influenced your professional mindset or career path or whatever?
Yeah, I got introduced. Well, there's two actually. One was a book I got when I first got into telecom. It was called Citizen Soldier. It's written by Stephen Ambrose. He, an amazing American historian, and it's the story of the American soldier in World War II. And he's like, this is telecom, or really this is business. And the reason America was so successful is that they allowed decision-making and ideas to flow freely from the front line to people that could make decisions. And the Germans to this day, had a very hierarchical way of making decisions. So an idea could come, but if it had to go up the chain to get permission, then it had to go back down. And one example of that I use a lot is in Normandy, they took aerial photos of the beaches, and it looked like there were shrubs, around these fields, but they were actually hedgerows. They were death traps. They were trees that would, it was impossible to get through. And the guys in the motor pool, the mechanics were like, if we take some of the scrap metal and put them in a sawtooth form, we can actually add these to the vehicles. They can penetrate the hedgerows, knock it down, and we can advance through there without, getting creamed. That idea came from the motor pool. It didn't come from headquarters, and they enacted it quickly. And also, a lot of the American equipment, it didn't last as long as some of the German vehicles and things like that, but they had the parts and the people were able to fix it. They were able to get things together, make it work. So Citizen Soldiers is a great book. And then the other one that's really impacted me was the story of Ernest Shackleton. And I don't know if you know the story, but Ernest was a British explorer, tried to cross the South Pole on foot several times. But his last journey, he commissioned a boat called the Endurance, and they were lost at sea for just over 2 years. And and the great thing about that, and I'm not going to ruin it, I want people to look it up, get the coffee table book because it's pictures. And the reason that's important is as the boat gets crushed by the ice, they get trapped in ice floes, and they had dogs and dog sleds and all this stuff. And back then they had a cameraman. And he's like, we got to take just the essential stuff. That's all we're taking. And the camera guy's like, I guess we got to get rid of all the camera gear. He's like, oh, no. Taking the camera gear. Because when we get out of here, I want all the pictures. So it'll fund. I want to tell this story, and I want to get out of here, and I want to raise money next time. So get the coffee table book. We have it in our offices. It's one of the books that's foundational to our culture. All of the pictures are real. And it's a great story of leadership and how do you keep a team together in maybe some of the worst conditions ever. My friend told me you'll never be hungry, you'll never be cold if you read that book. And it's a great book. You don't even have to read it. It's got pictures. I went to school in Arkansas. We like books with pictures, but so it's great. It's a good book. Those are the two I like. Yeah,
I love it. I'm a big book person, so I'm going to check both of those out for sure. I love new books that I haven't heard of before, so I appreciate that.
You bet.
I got a wild card question for you.
Okay.
If you were given unlimited resources and complete freedom to start a new project or initiative with Live Oak Fiber that could potentially redefine the future of telecom, what would it be?
Oh, wow. That's a good one.
No pressure.
Jeez. I actually haven't ever thought about that, Molly. It would be a combination. I'd like to integrate mobile at some point. If it was unlimited, I'd like to have, one platform, across all of our customers. And I actually don't think we're too far away from that with how we're kind of deploying the network. But yeah, I would like to have ubiquitous coverage across ubiquitous devices across all of our areas that we serve. And not have these different kind of hybrid or Franken stitched together networks that kind of exist today. So yeah, I would do that.
I love it. Amazing. All right. And then we're coming into our last segment. This is where it gets really fun. So this segment is called Real or Fake. And I'm going to list off some podcast names, and then you have to guess whether they're real or fake.
Okay. All right.
We like to keep it, on the cutting edge here at Heartcast Media. So, all right. So the first one is the Morning Brews.
That's real.
It's actually fake. There's a newsletter called The Morning Brew, but not a podcast. I set you up with that one.
Is it brews plural? So it's like people drinking beer?
Yes.
I would think that would be real, but that's not real. That's not.
I mean, it's in Costa Rica. It is. Let me tell you, they love a good
morning brews.
Beer.
Okay.
Actually, I just reposted on Facebook, but I live in Costa Rica, and so our local news is always like, a tree has fallen. Thank God no one was hurt. Like, it's the best local news ever. And they posted a woman who just turned 100, and she lives in the blue zone. And, everybody's going nuts over the blue zone, and you'll live forever. And the picture is of her in front of a birthday cake drinking a beer. And I'm like, yes, that's how you live to be 100. You live in a blue zone, and you drink beer.
In the blue zone, and you have brews in the morning. Okay. But that's not real. I can't go to that podcast. It doesn't exist.
No, but maybe we should start it. Maybe it's
yeah. Yeah.
Actually, I had a former guest on the show start a podcast based on one of the fake podcast names because it was that good.
I mean, I guess it could be like Brews, like BRUISE, which, if anybody's had Monday morning sales calls, it could be the Monday Brews. And I would believe
Monday Brews.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be good. That's a little more relevant too. The Morning Brews. I love it. Okay. All right. Number 2, the Sporkful.
Sporkful, like spork as in the utensil.
Yes, that everybody's favorite.
I mean, I am a fan of the spork. I do like Taco Bell. I'm going to say it's real.
It is. It sounds fake, but it is real. Number 3, call your girlfriend.
I mean, I want to absurdly say that that's real, but I'm going to say it's fake.
It's real. Gotcha.
People need to remember for that. Okay.
Yeah, I know. She's not texting you all day. Let's be honest here. Come on.
Right. That's true.
Well, that is it. That is it for our real or fake round. It's always.
Well, I got 1 out of 3. I guess that's in Major League Baseball, I'd make the All-Star team. I bat 300.
I mean,
that's good.
You scored higher than most. I got to tell you that gets everybody, except for my last guess. He got all of them right. It made me rethink. Maybe I need a new segment.
Those are good. What was the one about the spork?
The Sporkful. All
right, I'm going to.
And it's real. It's a real podcast.
I'm very excited about it. Okay.
I am curious. I wonder if it's like a plastic utensil company. That would be kind of smart.
That would be smart. Yeah.
I wonder who it is. Now I'm curious. Well, listen, Steve, I appreciate. It's a foodie podcast. That makes sense.
I'm in for that.
Yeah, I know. I'm about that life too. So, well, listen, Steve, it's been awesome hanging out with you today. I really appreciate your time. When I was doing a little research about you, I was like, oh, this guy works hard, has a lot of experience, and has some real value to offer. So I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule and hanging out with me today.
Yeah, thanks, Molly. Like I said, I'm blessed. I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there, and you just can never give up. You can never give up. So, yeah, I feel blessed to be working with the people I'm working with. I feel like the ball bounced the right way for us. I get up grateful every day. And thank you for having me on. And thank you for turning me on to the Sporkful. It's great.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. Hey, I think it's uh-oh. Did I lose? Um, I think it's fantastic that you were here, and you're clearly aligned with the right people, with your business partner, and all the initiatives you're doing, and all the progress
Yeah.
you've made, and even the origin of the company. There's definitely people around you who see the value you're bringing, and have created some platforms for that to happen. So good on you for working hard and being a approachable person and responding to my outreach on LinkedIn.
It's great outreach. And for those that don't know, like if you get a note from Molly, it'll stand out and you should respond to it. She knows how to write. You know how to write a LinkedIn message, Molly. Absolutely. And I get a lot of them. We do.
It's funny because everybody who does respond has a sense of humor and is of a certain age. And so I haven't had a bad podcast interview yet because everybody who's come on has been genuinely interesting and intelligent and has a lot to offer. So I feel super lucky. So thank you for sure.
It's awesome. It was nice to meet you today. I appreciate you having us on.
No problem. And hey, before we go, tell everybody how they can get connected with Live Oak Fiber, where they can find you, all the good.
Well, for those that know what a live oak is, you know what it is. In Colorado, sometimes they'll call it live oak, but live oak is a tree. It's a tree that grows in the coastal region. It's a heritage tree. So if you live in the areas that we serve, you know what that is. You go to Live Oak Fiber, LIVEOAK fiber.com. You can follow us on all the Twitters and the TikToks and all the Instagram, all the channels are there, but you can follow our story. We have a podcast as well. We've got an Instagram page. We've got all that. But even if you don't live in the area, follow us. We have good content about streaming and, what's going to be happening next in broadband. And we'd love to have you as part of that community.
Amazing. And we'll make sure all those links are in the show notes below. So anybody listening to this can access that information. And thanks for coming on the show, and get connected with Steve if you haven't already. It seems like a great company to be associated with or give money to in any kind of capacity. So on that note, thank you for tuning in to Camp Content. I hope you found the content valuable, gave you some insight on how to get some new business this year. Until next time, be excellent to each other. Thank you. All right. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Camp Content. This is Molly.
And this is Matt.
And we are Heartcast Media, a.k.a. Camp Content, and we appreciate all of your support. If you found this content valuable, please comment on social media, LinkedIn, wherever you find us, and we will make sure to comment back.
And be sure to go on and subscribe and like on your favorite platforms, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, you name it. Leave us that subscription. Leave us that good review.
We'll love you forever. So until next time, be excellent to each other, and we'll see you next week.
Produced by Heartcast Media.
Thank you for tuning into Camp Content, hosted by Heartcast Media. We are a digital content agency focused on content marketing for businesses and brands. If you're looking to save time and be more consistent with your marketing and need a little guidance on what to say and how to say it and where to say it, we got your back. Book a discovery call today and let's talk.